Okay, today we want to talk about something that's a little bit controversial. It's called balancing over time, creating nutritionally complete and balanced meals over time instead of having every single meal being 100% complete and balanced. Some people say that we should have every single meal 100% complete and balanced. And there's another school of thought that says, well, they need a certain amount of zinc over the course of about 7 days. You can give it all in one day, or you can dribble it out over the 7 days, as long as we make sure that over a course of about 7 days, we are getting everything that our animals need. Some people who used to say balance over time was fine have now switched over and said, no, every meal has to be complete and balanced. I'm a little more of a balance over time type of person. I think about what I eat in a single day. There is no way that every meal I eat comes even close to the nutrients that I need over the course of a day. I don't even get it right over the course of a couple of days, so thank God I have a whole week to do it. Most of the times my pets do eat complete and balanced meals, but there are some times when the other day I didn't have anything thawed out, so my dogs got scrambled eggs with sardines. That's actually pretty close to being balanced, but that was their breakfast. And I wasn't worried about it because I knew I was going to pick up with what we needed later on in the day or in the week. Not a concern for me. A species-appropriate diet is essential for the well-being of our pets. There are various approaches to doing that. So we have DIY, which is do it yourself. There's different DIY raw diets, such as Prey Model, Frankenprey, Barf. Some people want a lot of vegetable matter, some don't want any, some use grains, some don't. There's so many different ways that we can feed our pets. But we do want to ensure that they're getting the needed nutrients in their diet. I was talking to someone the other day. He said that he spoke to another pet owner who had been feeding their dog chicken and rice. That's it. Chicken and rice for a very long period of time. That is so far from balanced. Please, please, please do not do that. Balance over time is making sure that we're getting all the nutrients that are required over a period of time, just knowing that we are getting the calcium, we're getting the trace minerals, we're getting the vitamins that we need. Do's and don'ts for balance over time. Balance over time method of feeding is only appropriate for healthy adult animals. This should never be done with kittens and puppies. They're in a growth phase and we need to make sure that we have things right for them. I would say the same thing for pregnant or lactating dogs and cats. They have huge nutrient requirements and we want to make sure that we get those right. Especially with those large breed dogs that are growing so rapidly, you want to make sure that you have everything that they need done the right way. So if you are going to DIY for any of those situations, make sure that you are well educated and that what you are doing is going to be suitable for that time frame for that animal. So certain nutrients do need to be provided daily, cannot be balanced over time because the body cannot store them. These include calories. You have to have enough calories in the day or over a couple of days. Macronutrients, so moisture, protein, fat, carbohydrates, amino acids, and water-soluble vitamins, because they don't store those. The fat-soluble vitamins, they're stored in the fat in the body and can be released, whereas water-soluble vitamins, they go in one end and out the other, and so we need to make sure that we are providing them. The fat-soluble vitamins, fatty acids, and minerals can be done a little bit more over time. How do we know that what nutrients are lacking and what foods to add? Some people use a ratio of 80-10-10, so the 80% food is meat, 10% is organ, and 10% is bone. There are typical nutrients that are deficient in those ratio diets, particularly ALA, fatty acids, EPA, DHA, fatty acids, which is the omega-3s, iodine, manganese, vitamin E, vitamin D, those are fat-soluble vitamins, and zinc. We get tons of vitamin A in those diets because vitamin A is very high in the organ meat. But we need to look in some other more specific places to get some of these things that are missing. The best way to know if something is missing is to use a formulation software, and we're going to go through that. The software includes nutritional data for thousands of ingredients, so you can look at something and see what is lacking and then figure out what you need to add to balance out that diet. The goal is complete and balanced nutrition, but with that said, nutrition is not an exact science for people and pets. We use guidelines from NRC that I think are from like 1980. And we also use AFCO, which is the Association of American Feed Control Officials, and FEDIAF, which is the European arm of that. The USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, also gives us nutrient analysis, but they all use averages of the nutrients in the food. Wheat that's grown in Kansas is going to be very different from wheat that is grown in England. Beef that is confinement raised is going to have a different nutrient profile than grass-fed beef. Depending on the soil, how depleted it is, how much enrichment has been done, whether things are organic, if they've had chemicals added, there's a lot of different things that go into what the actual nutrient analysis is of a particular ingredient. The only way we would know is if we analyzed and did a nutrient analysis on every single ingredient of every single batch every time we harvested anything. And with that said, I had a representative of one food company say that they took a huge batch of their food and they took different core samples and had them all analyzed, and actually had them each sample analyzed at 2 different labs, and they were all from the same batch, and every analysis came back different. So people like to think this is an exact science, and I get people who go crazy saying, I need to know exactly blah, 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 blah. You can't know exactly unless you send it out, send every single morsel out for an analysis, in which case, by the time you get that back, you won't have fed it to your dog anyway. So we're going to use an example using the Animal Diet Formulator, which is the software that I like to use. And we're going to look at a couple of the Hare Today grinds. So the first one is going to be using their Hare Today Alpaca grind. So we bring up the Animal Diet Formulator. Anyone can buy this software. It is available in a pet parent format all the way up to commercial formulation format. Okay, so we're going to go in and access the formulator software. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to formulate a recipe. We're going to decide whether it's a dog or a cat, and then we pick the activity level. I usually use adult less active because that's what most of our pets are. And we're going to title this one Hare Today Alpaca because we're going to use their alpaca meat, bone, and organ grind as our base. We're going to look to see what deficiencies there are, so we're going to add that into our recipe. So Hare Today, here we go. We're going to choose whether we want to use pounds, ounces, kilograms. I generally do things in ounces, but so this is 1 pound, which would be 16 ounces. And then we can scroll across and look at the mineral, vitamin, and fat and amino acid content. And anything that's highlighted in red is going to show something that is either in excess or deficient. So we've got quite a few deficiencies here. So we're low in vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin B5, linoleic acid, manganese, zinc, and iodine. So we need to add things to address those. So if we want to get our vitamin D level up, eggs are a good source of vitamin D. They've also got some other good things in them. So we added eggs. 150 grams is going to be 3 eggs. And then we can look and see the difference that made. So we've got some deficiencies in some other minerals now. We've got to correct our linoleic acid. So a good source of linoleic acid is hulled hemp seed, and that's pretty easy to find. So we're going to put that in, and we're doing this, you can do it in grams or ounces. A little easier to do it in grams, but you can do the conversion for, so 5 grams would be about a teaspoon. And we can see what differences that made. So we've still got a lot of trace mineral deficiencies in here. Okay, so we're adding in turmeric, which is a really good source of manganese. So you can see the difference that made. It took care of our manganese for us. We still need some vitamin E. And we still need trace minerals, zinc and iodine. So the cod liver oil is a great source of vitamin E. So we've taken care of that. There are other sources of vitamin E that could also be used. Sunflower oil is a good one. Some of the seeds can be good, but we've already got hemp seeds in here. Okay, and now we're going to look at some of our trace minerals. Iodine, kelp is our best source for the iodine. We put that in, and voila, we don't need a whole lot of that. So 1 gram is going to be a little less than a 1/4 teaspoon, or you can weigh it on a scale. And then okay, and we needed to decrease our copper. So a little bit of fish added in has taken care of our copper problem. That's also going to give us some more omegas, which is great. And now we need to take care of our zinc. Oysters are the best whole food source for zinc. And so we put in a 1/2 ounce of oysters, and that is not enough. We need to add more. So if you click on the number on the right, it'll adjust it for you. So what we needed was 0.536 ounces. So I most likely, because that's really hard to measure, I would probably round that up to 1 ounce and then just make sure that it doesn't have us over where we need to be. And now we can see that all the vitamins, minerals, and fats have been adjusted. There's nothing in red anymore. And when we click on the macro, that will tell us how many calories per ounce the diet has. And now we have a balanced diet that could be fed every meal. But that shows you the kinds of things that we would need to be adding over the course of time rather than just feeding the whole ground alpaca. Okay, so another example would be balancing a dog's diet using the Hare Today rabbit grind. So again, we're going to use a less active adult dog. I use FEDIAF instead of AFCO for the diet standard. I feel like the European values are a little bit better. So for our ingredient, we're going to add the Hare Today ground rabbit. And this is the meat, bones, and organs. And we find that it is deficient in manganese, zinc, iodine, vitamin D, and vitamin E. All right, so we're going to fix our vitamin D by adding egg. And we're doing 3 eggs, or 50 grams per egg. This is egg without shell. That took care of our vitamin D. We still have some mineral issues that we need to fix. We have too much calcium and phosphorus, and that just means we need to add some other ingredients to dilute down the amount of bone. Rabbit has a lot of bone compared to the amount of muscle and organ meat that's there. So we can add some fish, like sardines. Add 3 ounces, which is about a can. That made our calcium a lot better. Our phosphorus did not correct. And we can see it helped our vitamin E, but it didn't solve it completely. So we're going to take care of our zinc by adding oysters. Okay, now our zinc is where we need it to be. And it also took care of copper. Still need to find our vitamin E. And our trace minerals. So we're going to add in kelp for our iodine. Don't usually need a whole lot of that. So a 1/2 gram took care of that, which is literally less than a 1/16 of a teaspoon. Actually, a 1/2 gram is about a 1/10 of a teaspoon that we needed on the kelp. We're adding in cod liver oil to get our vitamin E. Oh, now we have too much vitamin D. Okay, and the hemp seed solved that's about 2 teaspoons of hemp seed, and that solved the vitamin E problem. And it also solved the rest of our mineral problem by upping it a little bit. So now we're a little over 2 teaspoons. And now we have everything balanced. There's nothing in red anymore. And that would be an example of a balanced meal using the Hare Today grind as a starting place. There's no one correct way to feed your pets. We could have chosen a lot of different ingredients to add in here instead of the ones that we did. So if your pet can't eat whole chicken eggs, then you could find something else to replace that. That's the great thing about this software. Once you get used to it and you have an idea what kind of ingredients work for your pet, then you can play with it to figure out how to balance a meal. My goal is always to try to balance it using whole food sources rather than using synthetic vitamins or minerals. Hopefully this helps, and if you want to look into the Animal Diet Formulator software, I think it's really helpful, really beneficial. Not everyone can figure out how to use it. It has a bit of a learning curve. When I first started with it, I absolutely hated it. I got it and I didn't use it for the first year because I was so frustrated with it. The software has improved. That's been a very long time ago. The software has really improved the ease of use. There are tutorials in there, and there are complete recipes in there that you can pay for that have been made by nutritionists. So hopefully this helps. Have fun.